If you follow me on social, you know I'm currently on a mission to bring dermatologist-grade skincare into my home. I was ready to level up from red light and facials, but in-office laser treatments are so expensive and they often require downtime for your skin to recover. That's where Nira comes in. Nira is the first and only painless at-home laser that not only rivals, but transcends in-office treatment results at a fraction of the price and with no side effects. It literally sounds too good to be true, so you know I did a deep dive, and I found out that Nira's technology is award-winning, holds 17 patents worldwide, and is dermatologist-approved, clinically proven, and FDA cleared. I just started using my Nira like a month ago on my tech neck, and I've already noticed a little bit of alleviation of the fine lines and wrinkles in that area. So I'm really excited to see the final results in like 30 to 60 more days, and I will definitely keep you guys posted on my progress. What I can already say with 100% confidence is that it doesn't hurt at all, doesn't leave any redness, it's super easy to figure out, and I literally do it in 5 minutes a day. Make sure to use the link in the show notes to get your Nira device and any accompanying skincare products for 15% off. Hey guys, it's Sam, and welcome to Caps Lock, a podcast designed to help you live bigger, better, louder, and longer. Before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for listening and for giving this a chance and for coming here in pursuit of your best self. This is a space where we are going to grow together, and I hope that it helps you go forward confidently, unapologetically, and with purpose. It's time to live your life in caps lock. If that mission feels aligned for you, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let's dive in. Today's guests are the founders of Master My Run, a training program that provides athletes with the tools they need to unlock their best running performance by leveraging cross-training, nutrition, and individual and group coaching. Both founders are clinical exercise physiologists, where Heather specializes in strength and conditioning, metabolic evaluation, and run economy and programming at NYU Langone. Jason, who spent 10 years at New York's Hospital for Special Surgery, is a sports dietitian specializing in nutrition and now runs a private practice, JM Fitness and Wellness. Together, they have created countless personalized programs for runners of all levels, inclusive of metabolic testing, custom strength and mobility routines, fueling and hydration plans, and injury prevention strategies. They've been featured in Women's Health, GQ, Business Insider, Reuters, and New York Roadrunners, and today they are here with us to teach us everything we need to know about running, from safety to diet to performance and more. Please join me in welcoming to the show Heather Milton and Jason Machowsky. Hey, guys.
Hey,
Hello,
thanks for having us. Great introduction.
Thank you so much. It's like my favorite part of the episode is getting to talk about why everybody should listen to what you guys have to say. I so appreciate you being here. It's hilarious timing because I am not really a runner, but I went on my first run that I've ever been on in my entire life outside like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I am such a fitness girl. I've tried everything from like HIIT, bar, Pilates, spin. Like I have run the complete gambit of all types of fitness. But I always I guess I had this like mental block about running. And I'm not sure why. I almost wonder if it was like ingrained in me from like 2000s diet culture where like the punishment for eating food was always like, go for a run. And at school, it was always like, run laps, like if you get in trouble, right? So I had never really considered doing a run, but I did it and I filmed it. I ran 1 mile, which I was very proud of. I wasn't sure I was going to make it. And immediately the video got 500,000 views. I asked in the caption for advice for runners and everyone's like, try this app and wear these shoes and like do all this stuff. And I couldn't believe just like the response from people and how much of my community clearly are runners. So I'm just really excited to have you guys here. I feel like this is awesome timing. So in our audience today, we have runners of all levels, people, you know, who are complete non-runners who like me were like maybe nervous to even get started, all the way to triathletes who are doing like Ironmans, marathons, you name it. So I really want to run the gambit in terms of what we cover today. So for our non-runners, including myself, I think, like I said, there are a couple reasons running maybe hasn't been our jam just yet, which is like the potential punishment kind of association from like back in the day. I think some of us have bad joints, previous injuries. We're worried about exacerbating. It can be like intimidating. I was like, when I did my run in Central Park, I was nervous. I was like, everyone here knows it's my first time running. I can tell everyone's staring at me. So I think the first thing I'd love to hear from you both is just like, what got you into running in the first place? Why do you love it? Why did you make it your work?
Great question. And congratulations on your run.
Thank you.
I'm curious how you feel now.
I was proud that I did it. I don't think I ran long enough to get like a high or anything, right? I did a mile, but I had no idea what like a good time was. So I just kind of went like fast. And I did like 9 minutes and however, I think like 20 seconds or something. But I was gassed at the end. I was like, I can't do that 26 times in a row, you know? Yeah. So I think more than anything, I'm competitive. And I was like, okay, let's just get better.
Yeah. And I mean, you just kind of explained it for me, at least. Like, why did I get into this? Is because running is so accessible that so many people may try to go do it without any guidance. And so there's so much information that from our professions we can share to help people start it and kind of have some guidance as to where to start and where to go from there.
Totally.
So, I mean, I started running when I was in college because I was a gymnast. And then what do you do after gymnastics? So started with another discipline and really focused on that and learned by doing it myself all the mistakes I want to help other people avoid.
I love that. And I think that will resonate for so much of the audience. I think a lot of us played a sport or did something growing up. And then you graduated and like, you're not a professional athlete. You're not an Olympian. So like, where do you go from here? And I think all of us find our footing somewhere in the fitness world. And like you said, running is so accessible. Makes total sense. What about you, Jason?
I think we work well. That's kind of like a yin and yang. I'm actually a person who got into fitness and health kind of as a young adult. Like I didn't grow up playing much of any sports. Like, you know, I was a bit overweight. I actually got healthier in my early 20s.
Love.
And a part of my journey, my process was strength training. And I just, of all the different types of cardio to do, I kind of really enjoyed running. I felt like I hit a good zone for me personally. And so for me, running has been just kind of a part of a healthy lifestyle. And it's just, you know, one of my best preferred forms of cardio to do that makes me feel good when I do it, after I do it. So for me, I kind of slotted into it and it's just been a part of my life ever since.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people are looking for cardio in the world and a lot of people are turned off by the group fitness stuff or, you know, there's so many different ways to do it. And if you're not into group fitness, running feels like a very accessible place to start. Running is one of those things where I think the belief is like really anyone can do it, right? Just get outside and start, like throw a slap on your sneakers because it's free. And I think a lot of people consider it sort of the gateway drug to the fitness world. You know what I mean? But is running really for everybody? Like, is there any kind of person who shouldn't do it? Is there anyone who would be like predisposed to it versus should really go for something else?
That's one of those it depends kind of questions.
Totally. Very
which is
personalized.
So common. Yeah, exactly. We look at each individual and what is reasonable for them. It's hard for me to ever say anybody should never do any form of exercise unless there's a medical reason for it, of course. But other than that, as you run, your mechanics get better. And so practicing running can help prevent some of the risk for injuries, depending on if you do have prior joint injuries or any other reasons that would prevent you from starting. But it then would just require having some guidance as you do it, like we said before.
Totally. I shared a question box on my Instagram story to see if any of my followers had questions for you guys or specific topics they wanted to hear about. I got a lot of the same questions kind of over and over, and I'm sure you guys get the same, right? Like everyone wants to know like the same 10 things basically. But one of the big ones came from my non-runners or my brand new runners, and they wanted to know, is runner's high real or is it a myth that you guys made up to like recruit us into your cult? So can you explain, I mean, is it real? If so, what's actually happening when someone feels runner's high? And I guess sort of how and when does it get turned on? And can you like sort of choose to turn it on in order to enjoy your cardio more? Tell me about that because I got so many people being like, what's the deal with runner's high? Like I've been trying to jog or something and I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could just flip a switch and have a runner's high.
Totally.
So it really comes from as you exercise, it doesn't have to be running. There's a lot of different forms of cardio that can contribute to getting that kind of runner's high. Just that it doesn't happen for everybody. It doesn't happen on every run for everybody. It's a smaller percentage that actually truly feel it. But I can say I've experienced it. Typically happens if you've been doing a longer run. So you have some time doing a relatively hard pace where you have extra endorphins that are released that kind of creates that euphoria or like it's reduced feeling of effort when you're doing that same run.
Okay, got it. So let's talk about, okay, for anyone listening, it is real. It's just you're not going to get it on your mile-long jog probably. Okay, let's like go backwards a little bit to pre-run because I feel like there's so much that we can do before our run that people aren't even thinking of. Because like we said, people will just lace up their sneakers and go outside and get started. So at a foundational level, can you tell me a little bit about what kinds of metabolic testing you're doing on your athletes and also why you're testing them in the first place? Like what are you really looking for in those test results? And also, I guess after you get those markers back from the test, can you improve them? Or is that something you're kind of stuck with?
There's a few different forms of metabolic testing. One of them I actually use to then give Jason information on fueling. So we can better cater what the fueling plan is for that runner, given what distance they're running, what paces they're running, and what energy sources they're using. Other than that, we also use it to provide different zones of training. So we're looking at what we call substrate utilization, where are we in aerobic metabolism, anaerobic metabolism, which means working much harder, using different energy. And so designing a program based on that. For beginners, it's not needed usually because what we want to start is developing a base. And then if we test after that, that metabolic information is much more valuable to that runner. In the beginning, it's really like putting in the time, getting used to it, getting more efficient, building that base of aerobic conditioning. And then from there, we can tailor much more once somebody has a little bit more experience.
Got it. And then, so say I start running, like baseline, like I get started, and then we do some metabolic testing and numbers come back XYZ. After that, when you use that information to build a nutrition plan or a training program or what have you, do you test again down the road and see if those numbers have changed at all as a result?
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're looking at total aerobic capacity. So what is the fastest rate that you can take in oxygen and use it for energy? So that also gives us like what pacing you could do maximally and maintain over a long period of time. So those numbers, as well as where you transition from more using fats as fuel to carbohydrates as fuel, as you train within the zones we provide, that will improve. So then we have to retest to see what the new zones are based on those improvements.
Oh my God. I love like a program. I'm so goal oriented. I'm so competitive. If you tell me like, we're going to go for this and you tell me how to get there, I am such a homework doer. Like my personal trainer is always like, you're the best student because you'll go home and do what I tell you to do instead of just showing up to your appointment and being like, what now? And you've done nothing in between, which like doesn't actually help you get anywhere. So I love that. Is there anything that we should already be doing before we begin running to make sure that we're doing it safely? Whether that's like how we're eating before we get started, whether that's like making sure we have some kind of foundation of core strength or leg strength or whatever. So like what should we be doing before we consider being runners?
Well, I'd say nutritionally, making sure you're at least have some level of hydration is going to help. You don't really want to start any sort of athletic activity, running included, dehydrated.
Right.
There's really not much benefit to be gained. So, of course, when you're starting, let's say if you're going to go running first thing in the morning versus during the day, there might be an influence there. And then there's a whole conversation around whether you should have how much fuel you should have, how much food you should have prior to a run, depends on how long the run is, depends on what your metabolic goal is with the run. So food, again, if you're running for your best effort, odds are you're going to want to have some food in your body as well, within the couple of hours prior. So again, being fueled before your run is an important factor.
Okay, because I do think a lot of people too, and myself included, I'm guilty of this, will like wake up, caffeinate, and go to any workout, like not just running, and there is such a camp of like workout on an empty stomach versus a camp of like eat a few minutes before, like, and eat this and that. And I'm going to have a lot of questions about that. So please, please be ready for that because I have a whole bit on that. And what about strength training in terms of like making sure in advance that your body is ready to run with good form?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that you ask the question later, like differences for women and men too. Because
writing that down.
Women need to be very aware of how they're feeling
Oh,
beforehand,
love that.
especially depending on our age. But for strength, that's also very important for women. But Jason kind of alluded to it too. Like it's part of a well-rounded program. So no matter if you are trying to get your PR in a marathon or you're just starting out running, having a solid strength program is only going to help you successfully do your runs. And so having that base, so yes, like there's a lot of structures that are responsible for our running, including core strength, hip stability, hip strength, glutes. All of that's really important. We want to make sure it's as strong as possible so that we're running on a healthy base.
Okay, cool. So like what kind of strength training should we be doing consistently throughout our running journey to make sure that we're actually using it to improve the runs versus, I don't know if there's any kind of strength training that would like set you back necessarily. You can tell me, but I'm curious like what kinds of exercises we should be focusing on, what kind of training, because there are true strength workouts where it's like weightlifting and resistance training. Then there's like the HIIT classes, the treadmill classes, which I want your opinion on too, because there are so many of those. And now that we've talked for a few minutes, I'm already feeling like probably people go to those with no foundation and no planning and no training and like go and hurt themselves. Not that that makes the class inherently bad, but that maybe you should be prepared for it before you start doing it. So I'd love to hear about just what kind of strength training you recommend and how you feel about those kind of group fitness things.
Yeah.
I used to be the queen of searching my symptoms on the internet and going down a rabbit hole of terminal illnesses that I definitely didn't have, but would then lie awake worrying about for weeks. As I reinforced that habit time and time again, the line started to blur between when I should or shouldn't take a symptom seriously. I mean, even if your symptoms match up with a diagnosis on the internet, everyone experiences health issues differently. So there's no way to know if you've got the same thing as that girl on TikTok. But now I know that knowledge is power, so I'd rather see a doctor right away to either soothe my unfounded concerns or get the care I need. And that is where ZocDoc comes in. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. I've used ZocDoc to find all my medical doctors, and it has been a total game changer because I used to have so much trouble finding the overlap between who's a good fit for me, who takes my insurance, and who's available to see me. So take back the power, stop putting off those doctor's appointments, and go to ZocDoc.com/capslock to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/capslock. ZocDoc.com/capslock.
So we'll start with what type of exercises or how the structure of the strength training should look. So a lot of times I find that runners do higher repetition, lower weight, with the thought of, well, I'm running, which is like I need to train my muscles to have endurance for running. However, running does train the muscles in an endurance fashion. And so we do actually want to do higher intensity, which does not mean high impact. It means high intensity, high difficulty level, lower repetitions with heavier weights.
Got it.
And so, of course, if somebody's never never done strength training before, I would say don't start with like six reps and lift the heaviest weight you can.
Right.
But build to that. So
Okay.
we want to basically train the nerve connected to the muscle to activate the muscle efficiently and build stronger muscle.
Okay.
Right. And it's a very different pathway and metabolic function than it is for running, but it only contributes to better running form and economy.
Okay. Ultimately, we want to get to, what would you say, like 6 reps, 3 sets. And I mean, I know there's this little formula that people love on the internet where it's like you try a certain amount of weight for 6 reps. And if you can do it, you add 5 pounds. And then if you can't make it to 6 reps, that's your weight. But then if you add 5 more pounds and you can do it, you go up 5 more pounds. Like, is that ultimate? Do you follow that formula at all? Or like, how do you judge what amount of weight you're using?
I see where that formula is coming from. So yeah, 6 to 8 repetitions. So then, and it's all like base lifts. So think about like squats, lunges, step-ups, deadlifts, presses and pulls. Don't forget the upper body. It's also important. It does engage your core and make sure you have the right posture for running as well.
Totally.
But it doesn't have to be complicated, right? You don't have to be balancing on a Bosu while you're doing, squats or anything like that. We actually want you to have a solid base so you can increase the weight that you're doing for
Got
it.
it.
And so how do you decide what weight is the best weight for you? We want to be in this zone, if you think about like a 1 through 10 scale, where you're rating, like as you get to the last rep, you're rating it about a 7 or 8, which means you could probably do 1 or 2 more repetitions, but not more than that before you get fatigued or your form breaks down.
Got it. And let's talk really clearly, because I want to be so explicit for the girlies listening so that when they go to the gym, they have ideas of what to do. Squats, lunges, like what are your absolute favorite movements, compound or otherwise, that you feel are good weightlifting exercises to do for runners?
Yeah, and I would also say there has to be some caution on, is it right for everybody depending on what your mobility is, what
Not
your technique looks like. Yeah, of course. But doing like staggered deadlifts, or I love the version of it where you have like your foot against the wall, kind of like a Bulgarian split squat.
Okay.
For those who have seen those, where your foot's on a bench and you're doing like a staggered lunge. So those squats, lateral lunges, a lot of runners do everything in a forward motion, but we have to think about the fact that all of the muscles that support us running also have some lateral component to them. So we want to make sure that we're moving in a like lateral fashion as well.
Okay, amazing. That's so helpful. And then what about, I think a lot of people listening do a lot of like Pilates. We're loving Pilates right now. That's new for me. And also like those HIIT classes and the classes where you're using weights. And I know for me, especially early in my fitness journey, they helped me get stronger. And then you kind of plateau on how strong you're going to get from a HIIT class like that. We're also doing a lot of cardio versus weightlifting.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it back to that. So for Pilates, Pilates is something that is like, it does help with muscular endurance, like we talked about. You may feel that like smaller muscle groups burning while you're doing it. You feel like you're getting a really good core workout. But that's great to do, but not instead of the heavier strength training, right? Okay. So it's a good supplement to do once or twice per week to support that kind of base of stability where we do have to progress the weights as well.
Got it.
So well-rounded program. There's running, there's strength training, there's Pilates, there may be yoga that helps more with recovery and mobility, but does not have to be done every day. And then the HIIT classes as well. So part of a progressive strength training program, which would mean you're increasing the weights maybe 5 to 10%, usually lends towards about 5 pounds every week or every other week. So that's the formula you were talking about, to progressively build that strength. Because you adapt, you get stronger, then you need to increase the weight.
Right.
We eventually want to integrate plyometric work too, which is essentially a quick motion where you're lengthening the muscle and tendon and then shortening it. So HIIT workouts do include a lot of plyometrics. There's typically jumping involved, which is plyometric activity. But our bodies need time to recover after we do those. It's higher intensity, it's more taxing. And so we should only be doing it once or twice per week with adequate recovery in between. So about 72 hours at least in between each one of those sessions.
Wow. That is a mistake I am making, and I think a lot of people are, is doing it every single day. And that can't. I actually just recorded an episode, which will come out before this one. So anyone who's listening, you've already heard it if you're a weekly listener, about how I was doing HIIT every single day and I was feeling like kind of puffy. And I was like, it's so weird. Like, it used to just make me so skinny and snatched and like feel so strong and toned. And I did so much research and found out that I'm not giving myself enough rest in between to lower my cortisol levels. And so I'm retaining a lot of water. I'm feeling like bloated and puffy. But this is another good reason to kind of spread those workouts out more as opposed to doing them every day. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is like, let's just go as hard as possible every single day and I will be stronger and lose more weight and whatever else the goals are, but not always the case.
And I'll throw in, it's not about saying that you can't do anything, but it's about the relative intensity. There's higher days, lower days. So you can do something active the next day, but you're not going like balls to the wall sort of intensity every single day because your body doesn't have enough recovery time.
Totally. So I could do like an incline walk or a mat Pilates or something, and that would be a good balance of like moving but also recovering.
Or even if you're a runner, like kind of a slow and steady base building run where you're not doing intervals or super high intensity, pushing yourself, but something that's just very reasonable and doable for your body that's not pushing it to its relative limits.
Got it. Okay, that's so helpful because I also know for a lot of us, like movement every day is a non-negotiable, so, and it's good for our mentals as well as our physicals. So that's huge. Okay, so we're ready to go for a run. Like we, the collective here, are ready to go for a run. What are we wearing? I want to hear what both of you have to say about this. I have made so many mistakes in this area. My first pair of running sneakers was a Nike Vaporfly. And I very quickly learned that those are for like race days. Those are not your like treadmill or your training shoe. And, you know, when I posted that video of my first run ever, I got like 500 comments. I asked for advice and I got a lot of advice. And I remember one of the things everyone was saying is it's 37 degrees outside. You are wearing way too much clothing. They were like, you know, you got to dress for it to be 15 to 20 degrees warmer than it actually is. And there was just so much advice coming in from all different places. And that's when I realized it was just not as simple as like lacing up your sneakers and going outside, right? So I would love to hear a little bit about how we should be dressing for our runs, from like the clothes we're wearing, especially the shoes. People have a ton of questions about like what's the right sneaker for training versus racing, whatever. And also if there are any accessories, like someone was like, you should get gloves. And I was like, wow, did not even cross my mind. Like, we're not skiing. I didn't see that coming. So what are we wearing?
It's such a great question. So yes, running is free, but it's also fun to get all the right gear too, right? Like it actually can be
running Barbie. We need all the gear.
So I'm going to start with shoes just because I see so many newer runners starting with like their street sneakers, not really thinking about like what's going to support their run. And so a shoe that may feel completely fine to walk around the street may not be something that's going to support you for your run, or maybe older and you need to get like an updated pair. So one thing to think about is a shoe that does have some cushion in it. Of course, like the amount of support that you need depends on the structure of your foot and your anatomy. And so going and like trying different types of shoes to see which one is the most comfortable is important. And then also making sure, depending on the volume that you're doing and your weight, you should be changing your shoes about like every 500 miles. And so if those shoes have been used for doing a bunch of other things, then maybe find a pair that's designated for your run.
Got it.
And then, you don't have to start with a race shoe.
That was so, everyone was like, ma'am, please take them off. And I was like, they're so pretty though.
And then from there, you want to think about something that's wicking, basically. So a fabric that is not going to like absorb all of the sweat that you may have. It's pulling it away from your body. Right?
Got it. Okay.
And so like having layers. So it doesn't mean dress like it's warmer than it is necessarily. Like just have enough layers so as your body temperature rises when you start running, you can take off the outer layer that's, a warming layer.
Got it. Okay. I don't normally do this because people pay for this kind of stuff, but I want to hear what your favorite shoe brands are for running, because everyone asks me like, oh, what sneakers are you wearing? And I have the wrong sneakers, so I can't share that information. Do you have any favorite, like for like a casual outdoor runner who maybe runs a couple times a week? What are good shoes?
It really does depend on the runner and the shape of their foot, what's comfortable for them. There's a lot of literature on like what support and which shoe is right. And it really comes down to which is the most comfortable for you. So I would encourage anybody to go to a running shoe store and try on a few different brands. Okay. You're going to find your brand.
That's actually so helpful, because I think I was under the impression that like every brand makes every different kind of shoe, but it's actually like the brand itself doesn't really matter. It's more about like what fits your foot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know. And you said we should be replacing our running shoes every 500 miles. Okay, what if we're like me and we're not tracking how many miles we run? Is there like a general, like if you're a casual runner, like every how many months or something we can like use as kind of a baseline?
Yeah, you can. So we would look at it basically on like how how many miles you're running every week or every month. And then
And
from
just
there,
mathing?
you can,
Okay.
do a little bit of math. You could, like a lot of runners actually just put the date that they got the shoe, like write it in marker, like on the, like the heel of the shoe.
Such a good life hack that I never would have thought of.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like marking your leftovers. Do we have any favorite running tech? A wearable, an app? Like everyone on my comments was like, try Strava, try Couch to 5K, like get a Garmin. And I was like, I'm not. So what tech do we like?
So actually going back to like tracking your miles, there are some apps that can help you with that. So Strava and Garmin are ones that you can actually just log it. So it tracks it for you and, you can kind of have an idea of when it's time to replace your shoe. So those are good for that. It really depends, again, on your goals, where you're starting. Something like a Couch to 5K may be great for a newer runner and give you some guidance if you don't have one-on-one sessions with a physiologist or someone who can really give you more specific guidance. But then also something like a Garmin may be good for somebody who's really looking at their zones of training and really looking for cutting down, getting that PR, having a more fine-tuned understanding of all of their data. There's a lot of wearables that give you a lot of data, and a lot of people come to me and they don't really know what a lot of it means.
Totally.
And so finding something that like is worth it for you, like you're getting something out of it. And if you do have a resource like, myself or Jason who could help you understand it and utilize it to the best advantage for you, then that, it really just depends on, where you're starting.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends, like, A, what's your goal? Like, are you trying to get information on, like, your recovery, on your training zones, on your nutrition? And then can you process that data?
Right.
Do you have the knowledge or is the knowledge database from that company going to give you that effective knowledge to say, okay, this is the data I'm getting. How do I take actionable steps to utilize that data? And so I think either you can search online, you can meet with a professional to kind of start parsing that out. But what I'll say is, if you're just getting new to running, just run. Develop the love of the running habit first. Then there's endless amount of time to work on the data and the fine tuning.
Right. And like options, right? There's
100%.
no shortage of stuff you can buy, right?
Totally.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Your best running tech is actually just a coach who understands the data that you're getting from your running tech. Okay. What is our warm-up for a run? How are we warming up? I was talking to someone recently I was stretching before one of my run classes, like my group fitness treadmill classes, and they were like, honestly, most runners like don't even stretch. And I was like, that's my nightmare. I was a ballerina. I have to stretch before I do anything. And also, like, is there a different type of warm-up we should be doing for like a speed run versus an endurance run versus a casual jog? Like, what are we doing?
Thank you so much for asking the question, because you're right. A lot of runners don't do any warm-up at all. And that's like low-hanging fruit for me to say, like, you're going to reduce your risk for injury and you're going to improve your performance. And so it should not be solely static stretching. If static meaning just holding the stretch without moving, if that does happen, it should be a precursor before then doing more dynamic movements.
Got it.
We want to approach every warm-up. So this goes to anybody who's doing any type of exercise class, different workouts in the gym, strength training, and running. You want to start with warming up your body. That just enables you to have more access to oxygen for your muscles to work, right? So that also then can help then lend towards the other parts of the warm-up, which are mobilization, moving your joints through a full range of motion, that which you would expect for the activity you're about to do. So for a sprinter or fast-paced runner, that means much more hip extension and hip flexion than it would be for going out for a casual jog.
Got it.
And then we want to think about activating all the muscles that need to be active. And we talked about the core, the glutes, all those hip supporting structures that need to be active for running. And then potentiation, which is essentially moving quicker and getting closer to the pace that you'd be doing for your run.
Okay. And then this is a big one, so we don't have to go into like all that much detail. So maybe give me like the top 3 to 5 things to consider, but like what are the basics of proper running form that you want people to keep in their heads when they're running?
Yeah, I've already alluded to some of it. I talked a little bit about the glutes being active, having hip extension. So the main things we want to think about are, and this can help with injury prevention or feeling those shin splints or, it's fatigue in the front of your legs when you start off, is trying to get your feet to land underneath you rather than in front of you, right? So that allows your muscles to absorb all the forces as you're landing on one foot and be able to push off rather than your joints absorbing some of that force.
Okay.
So that's one of the main things I look at. Can we improve that? And then as we're thinking about performance and improving your pacing would be having a nice forward lean and hip extension. So that means postural muscles of the back need to be strong, core muscles have to be strong, and your glutes are active so you can fully extend your leg and push yourself forward.
Okay, so helpful. Also, I don't think I ever would have consciously thought of like putting my feet underneath me. You know what I mean? I feel like when I'm propelling forward, looking at my kind of split of where my feet are landing, in my head, it's in front of me. So that's really interesting that alignment of your body over your foot.
And those are things you can kind of check. If you're running in a city, then you can see a reflection in the window. So you can kind of see where your foot is landing. If you've done a 5K, 10K, there's usually a race photo near the end of the race where you can say like, is that really what I look like when I run? So like, that's the perfect example because it's when you're probably a little fatigued and you can see where your mechanics are starting to break down and what areas to focus on most.
Love it. Okay. I'm going to ask you now about 500 questions about how we need to eat.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So like Heather mentioned earlier, I do want to also talk every question. I'd love to consider if there's a difference between what a man should be eating versus what a woman should be eating. My first question is my favorite one. Is carb loading real? Because I want it to be.
It is real. It depends on how long your run is, whether you need it or not.
Yeah, okay.
So carbs are our body's kind of primary source of fuel for activity. So if you are active, you're going to want to have some level of carbs. Everybody's different. But the concept of carb loading, which is eating significantly more carbs than you normally do for a couple of days, anywhere from 1 to 3 days.
Oh, it's days. It's not just like have a big bowl of pasta. So
there's different. So if you're just trying to kind of fuel a training run of some distance, you might want to have some carbs prior to it. Mm-hmm. But the concept or the term of carbohydrate loading is really the term around preparing for a longer distance run, typically of at least 13 to 15 miles or longer.
Oh, man.
And it's a reflection of actually consciously taking in more carbs than you typically eat on a daily basis to what they call supersaturate your muscle glycogen stores, which are your body's fuel stores in your muscles and your liver. So then when you do this super long run, you can only kind of ingest or take in so much carbs while you're running.
Yeah.
So the more fuel you have on board, gas in the tank, the more you can go at a decently fast pace without running out of gas.
Oh my God, I love this because it's so sciencey. And anyone who's listening knows we just talked about glycogen stores. And I'm so proud of that. I love when we have compound learnings. Like we talk about what they are, we understand what they are, and now you come and put it in real life application. That's so helpful. What should we be eating or drinking right before we go for a run? Maybe it's not like a 15-mile run, but maybe it's like a casual couple single-digit miles or even like 2 or 3, right? Like a normal daily run. What should we eat or drink before, and how far in advance should we do that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so I'll caveat this with, it depends on what your adaptation goal is, right? So you have one camp of people who are metabolic efficiency, burn fat as fuel. And then that camp will be like, oh, you shouldn't have anything, just drink some water and you're fine.
Okay. And that's for what? For like fat burning?
For fat burning. And again, sometimes weight loss and fat burning isn't always in the same camp because weight loss is actually total calories burned versus just how much is coming from fat.
Right.
If you're trying to put in like a best effort or a kind of higher intensity effort, you're going to want to have some carbs on board because if you're starting relatively low glycogen, you doing first thing in the morning, you might not have as much fuel on board, so you might not be able to push yourself as hard.
Right.
So I have people who sometimes do like runs first thing in the morning and they don't ever eat anything, and then I say just have a half a banana or, just a little something and drink some water with maybe some electrolytes or whatnot. And then they feel like a totally different person.
Oh, interesting.
And so it really depends on, what your goal is. And then as far as how much to have, it depends how much time you have to digest. Some people can have a big old sandwich, an hour before and they're fine and they feel great. Another person will have that same sandwich and will be ready to puke before they even start running. And so you have kind of two things. You have the tolerance of the individual and you have how long you have to digest it.
Right.
So usually the saying is a snack within an hour or 2, a meal 3 to 4. So if you have a busy work day and the only time you're really be able to eat is let's say at 1 and you have your run at 5, have your meal at 1. You'll have time to digest.
Right.
if you feel like you need a little something, maybe have a snack around 3:30, give or take
Got it.
a half hour. So you're topping off your fuel stores and then go. If weight management is a concern, then just fit it into your day's fueling, that you're getting some of your planned day's fueling around that time before you're running, so you're not having to add more in.
Oh, that's so helpful. Like I said, there is such a camp of like work out on an empty stomach, and then there's like eat a meal first, and there's no one agrees. And also I think people don't know how to use it as a tool. It's more just like, when can I eat my lunch and still go for a run that makes sense?
Yeah, and that's the idea. It's about it's not that one camp is right or wrong, but it's person and situation dependent.
Yeah.
So we can just figure out what works best for you.
Totally. What about after? Like, I want to eat all the time. I just want to know all the questions about food. What should we eat or drink after we run to, I don't know, again, probably is goal dependent, right?
100%. So, including also before, the main thing that we look at for fueling before and during is carbohydrates, protein, fluid, and electrolytes.
Okay.
And so usually what we're looking for is those things in reasonable amounts. Carbs tend to be a bit higher than the protein. And then afterward, you can tend to have a little more protein focus. But again, usually I tell people sometimes to keep it simple. What you have before typically can double down what you have after. So again, it can be anything from, popular ones like chocolate milk or something like that.
Yeah, or like a shake or something.
You can do a shake, you do a smoothie. Especially liquids are more easily digestible. So if you do tend to have a sensitive stomach afterwards, you can definitely go towards kind of liquid sources of nutrition. But you could do a sandwich. You could do fruit and nut butter, fruit and cheese, stuff like that. You could do bowl cereal, yogurt, parfait, stuff like that. So again, if you kind of just say, okay, where am I getting my carbs? Where am I getting my fluids? Where am I getting my electrolytes? Where am I getting my protein? So again, it can be a food and beverage combo. It could be a beverage only. And then just keep hydrating and drinking water, especially if it's like hot or humid out and you're sweating a lot. You want to kind of stay ahead of that hydration even when you finish.
Okay. So this might sound like a silly question, but I feel like when I'm working out, there are times when I don't drink any water like during the workout. There are times when I drink way too much water by accident, and you can literally feel the water like sloshing around in your stomach. It makes me like want to gag just sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
What is like the right amount of water to drink before, during, after? And also, like, do we need BCAAs? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, that was a great question. So I think hydration, there's kind of some research-based estimates. So like beforehand, the kind of research generally shows you want to have approximately 1 ounce of fluid per 10 pounds of body weight about a couple of hours before.
Okay.
So let's say if you're a 150-pound individual, that's about 15 ounces of fluid.
Okay.
And then if you're feeling dehydrated, you can do an additional half ounce, which would be another like 7.5 ounces. So you can get very mathy if you want.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would just say try to drink a bottle.
Yeah, totally.
Which
is like roughly 16 ounces anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And then during, it really depends on a few things: the duration, the environment, and your personal sweat rate. So there is actually ways to measure your sweat rate. There's kind of if you kind of Google sweat rate calculator, it's usually a function of you measure your body weight before you run, you track how much you take in, you track how much you output. I recommend trying to choose a run where you don't have to measure your output because that's no fun.
Right.
And then you weigh yourself after kind of wiping off the sweat. And what we know is when the amount of body weight you lose is reflective of the amount of sweat and fluid you lost. And we know there's a pint a pound, 16 ounces per pound. So we're trying to keep you within 1 to 2% body weight loss during a longer run. So if we know how much you're taking in and we know how much you're losing based off your body weight change, we can actually say you sweat about this much in this environment, you drink enough or you didn't drink enough. And so there is ranges which are pretty wide, 3 to 6 ounces of fluid every 15 to 20 minutes per hour. And then similar, having about that pint a pound based off your losses. So again, I would generally say if you don't want to do any of this math stuff, drink a bottle before, make sure you're drinking something every 15 to 20 minutes during, drink a bottle after, and just stay hydrated. But if you want to get mathy, if you want to get into the details, we can go deep.
I have never heard that before at all. Like, I didn't know there was a way to measure how much you sweat, but I'm obsessed with it because I'm the perpetual student. Like, the math to me is exactly like what it's all about. That's amazing. I would love to hear a little bit about what are the most important factors for injury prevention in running. A lot of my followers mention shin and calf pain creeping in while they run. Some of them just like want that pain to stop. Others are worried it's a warning sign that they're heading toward injury or even have prior injuries that they're working with. So I'd love to just hear about like what you think are the most important factors for injury prevention.
Yeah. So all the runners out there are newbies. It is very common to have an injury at some point when you're running. Some of it can be prevented. One of the strategies can be not to try to do too much too soon, right? That's kind of a one of those old adages that is very true. So a lot of times we'll see runners who are like, they love it. Suddenly they got like, they caught the bug and then want to do it every day. And then not giving yourself enough recovery time or going from like 1 mile during a class or on their own to doing 10 miles in a week. And so thinking about the slow progression is the best way to do it. So if you are, starting off with a base of maybe 2 to 3 miles sprinkled in during class and stuff throughout the week, then only go about 10% more. So you're only adding about a half a mile to one of those runs per week, or adding one extra day, not increasing the volume a lot. That's one of the factors. The other one, we talked a little bit about the biomechanics. If you're overstriding, you're landing on your heel with your foot very far in front of you, that is very common to lend towards that front of the leg, the shin, like soreness or shin splints. You hear that term often. And so one way to prevent that is to look at your mechanics, but then also to make sure that you are giving yourself, again, some recovery time and stretching afterwards. Commonly, if the calf muscles are very tight, that lends towards the shins working a little bit more because they're the muscle on the other side of the leg.
Yep.
So they're working about the resistance of a tight calf muscle.
Got it.
And so making sure you're giving yourself some time, easy cool down strategies are to do some static stretching and allow for your heart rate to cool down, as well as lengthening the muscles that just worked during the exercise. Other factors are the strength training as cross training. So making sure, like if the calves get really tight or you're feeling that and as your runs continue, it may be because the larger muscles closer to your hip, like your glutes or your hamstrings, are underactive. So the smaller calf muscles trying to do more work. So going back to that to make sure that you're really activating the muscles that we want, and that ties us back to the warm-up.
Nutritionally, there's kind of two key factors. One is kind of chronic underfueling, especially in the weight management population. If you're not eating enough day over day over day and you're training super hard, your body may not be getting the fuel it needs to actually fully recover, and you're just digging a hole until that hole gets so deep that you hurt something or you get ill. So I think the key thing is there's ways to do it well, but you really got to make sure that you're not like super restricting yourself and overtraining yourself, because then you can just train yourself into an injury or an illness that all the strength training won't help with, because you're just not recovering from all that work you're putting in. Secondarily, during runs or longer runs, if you don't fuel well during the run, you could end up getting fatigued, dehydrated. The loss of that, focus or mechanical efficiency. People get sloppy when they're tired.
Yeah.
And inadequate nutrition can lead to that sloppiness.
Totally.
As well. So those are the two key things I say nutritionally too.
That's so interesting too, because I never really think about what I'm eating in terms of injury prevention. And I think that's a huge call out. Is like, we really need to be thinking about that too. And I can promise when I'm tired or when I'm fatigued or when even also if I overeat and I feel like full, I'll feel like sluggish, and I know that I'm not like engaging my core properly, and I'm not doing everything with all the proper form mechanisms in mind to like keep my body safe. So that's a really important call out. What are the basics, like top level advice for like building up to faster speeds or maybe longer endurance? I know that's like a big nuanced question.
Yeah, no. So one of them is practice. Practice makes perfect. So a lot of times, when you're just starting off running, if you're not used to it, then your mechanics are typically not as good. And, I can help anybody improve their mechanics, but a lot of times just going through the motions of running, starting off and just building slowly and getting more miles under your belt, that does lend towards having better form when you are running.
That makes perfect sense. So just keep doing it, guys. Like, I feel like after my first mile, I had this instant motivation. I was like, I'm going to do this every day. And then after that, I like didn't ever run again. And it was partly because there was snow on the ground when I went on my first run, which was a sicko choice of me to make. But now that it's getting warmer, I'm like motivated to just go outside and do it. And it is relieving to know that I'll get better at it just by doing it. Like I don't need to do anything fancy just yet or like complicated. I can just start. That feels good. Okay, let's do a fun little rapid fire round where I'm just going to ask a question. I don't need you to elaborate. I just want to know your answers. Okay. What is your non-negotiable marathon must have, like you won't race without it?
Well, I would just say good shoes.
Same, good shoes.
Good shoes. What is the biggest mistake people make when they first start running?
Too much too soon.
Not finding us at Mastermind Run.
Totally. You need to coach people. I feel like I learned so much today that I'm going to bring back. What is the biggest waste of money in the running world?
I would say listening, I would say is too much tech and not enough just getting the reps in.
Yeah, expensive shoes.
They don't need to be expensive ones. There are good ones that are not $1 million. Okay, that's good to know. What is the best investment for runners?
So honestly, good coaching, it can set you up for a lifestyle of good work that you can do on your own.
I like going second. Themselves. Invest in yourself.
That's so nice. What is your current favorite song to run to or podcast or something? What do you listen to?
I'm a big Coheed and Cambria fan, so I don't know if people. Okay,
Love that for you. Yes,
Yeah.
people will know what that is.
I'm also from Nyack now. Like
Oh, cool.
I'm not from originally, but I live in Nyack now. So
So yeah, love it.
I think anything Kendrick Lamar right now.
Love it. Yeah, we're listening to the Super Bowl set list over and over. What is your favorite race you've ever run?
Brooklyn Half, the last year they did it from Coney Island to Prospect.
That sounds beautiful. Was it
Yes.
really? Why was it your favorite?
It was just honestly they shut down Ocean Parkway, and you're just running and it's quiet. And it was just kind of eerie, but also really, really like fun and pleasant.
It's like holy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Run to Remember in Boston. It's a run for all of the 9/11 firefighters.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. What's your running PR? I don't know what that means. I mean, I know it means personal, like what's your record, but like, I don't know how to extrapolate that to different races and different goals, but like, what's your personal PR that you're proudest of?
So 7:54 on a half. So 7:54 mile for a half.
Holy shit.
I was also a lot younger, but anyway.
That's so fast. That's amazing.
3:24 marathon.
Holy shit, guys. This is crazy. Wait, sidebar, and then we can keep going because I know we're running out of time. Did you guys see Harry Styles just ran a marathon in like 3.5 hours?
No.
If you are ever curious,
Yeah.
look at the celebrity times when they run the New York City Marathon after this marathon. You'd be shocked at how many of them are fucking like so fast. And I'm like, what is Harry Styles like? Harry Styles has time to train for a marathon? What's going on? It's great. You look like you have something to say.
No, I was going to say, we feel like a lot of celebrities have to train for some of their like roles, right?
True.
Or like Taylor Swift, who runs on a treadmill and like sings her whole set list, right?
I
So,
literally talk about that all the time. My boyfriend and I do a Rumble treadmill class every Tuesday morning, and my friend Kyle Axman, who you guys probably know, teaches it, and we sing every song. And I'm like, we're basically Taylor Swift right now. It's hilarious. That's a really good point. So they're always training, I guess. What is your next running goal?
I would say my running goal is to just stay consistent until my kids get old enough for me to train for a marathon.
Love. How old are your kids?
9 and 5.
Okay, so yeah, you need to be with them
I'm
for a
in
little
it.
bit. Yeah.
40-minute 10K.
40 minutes. Holy shit. Okay, great. I'll count. I can count to 40. What's the best running advice you've ever gotten?
Listen to your body.
Run your own race.
What's the worst running advice you've ever gotten?
You have to go this fast right now.
Totally.
Anything that is do this because it worked for me.
Oh, yeah, facts. That's with everything, actually. What is your favorite post-race meal?
Oh, pasta and some sort of protein, whatever I'm in the mood for.
That's my favorite meal all the time.
My favorite post-marathon food, not meal, ice cream.
Love that for you. Thank you guys so much. This feels like the perfect playbook for a beginning runner. And I would love to have you guys back on in maybe a couple weeks, and we'll do an episode all for advanced runners, because I feel like anyone who's a marathon trainer, there's obviously always stuff to learn here about like your foundational health and your form. But I feel like there's also a level deeper where like I don't even know what questions necessarily to ask yet because I'm so new. But this has been so helpful. I kind of want to go on a run. Maybe I'll go on a run today. It's so warm out.
Yeah, it's a great day.
And thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks
having
us. Awesome.
Guys, I can't believe that was an hour. I could do this for like 5
I know.
hours. That was like, that went by so fast.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into the geeking out part of it.
I know.
I was like, and I want to be a nerd. Like, you saw
Yeah.
how many questions I have on here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do this again.